Oh man, it's official. Your favorite Wednesday night destination draped in gold is inbound, and we're coming off a massive WrestleMania weekend. My name is Flobo Boyce. I'm here to break everything down, but of course, as always, I'm not alone. I'm being joined by the award-winning Real Jack Farmer. What's up, man?
Hooty hoo! Watching Master P on AEW just
Oh,
nah.
Master P in 2025. What the heck were we thinking?
Oh man, I know. I felt so old, but I was like, is this how like older people feel when Bruce Springsteen shows up?
Yes, it is. I went to a Jason Mraz concert last year. All people over the age of 60.
I was trying to remember the names of the Filthy Animals, or the No Limit Soldiers is who he had in WCW with him for the No Limit Soldiers. I was trying to remember the names, and then by the time I worked it out, I was like, the moment's gone. I'm not going to tweet it.
So wait, it was so inconsequential you gave up. You're like,
yes.
You know what? I don't have to do this. Poor Master P, y'all.
There was he had a whole crew though. Now I'm going to pull it up here. This is great radio here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
WrestleMania weekend, but Master P is leading off.
That's right. Swole and 4x4 and Chase and BA.
These are all just random creative wrestler names. If there ever was one. Swole? Not even Big Swole?
I'm clicking on their Wikipedias. They don't even have pictures for
that's a good sign.
who they are. William Chase Tatum. He had a name. Chase Tatum. Did he do something outside of? No, he didn't.
This is hot content. Well, thank you so much for watching and streaming right now on that YouTube, that Twitch, and that X platform. And of course, if you're watching or listening on the podcast version afterwards, audio or video podcast on Spotify platform, leave a 5-star review. That's how we get people to know more about the show. Besides knowing more about Master P, Jack Farmer, you were a busy bee over the past couple days. You went to Vegas for WrestleMania?
Yeah, you did too.
I'm not cool to you though.
It's
cool.
Who wasn't in Las Vegas?
Dude, I know, right? Everybody's mom was out there.
Yeah, no, it was a very busy time. It was a great time in Las Vegas. And I always say to people, we've said it before, if you're a wrestling fan and you've not been to Mania Week, do yourself a favor and go. I got to say, I think Las Vegas is truly the perfect city for Mania Week. It feels like it's just built for it because they've got so many venues. They've got so many things to do in between shows. It's not walkable. It looks walkable. It's not actually walkable, but
it is for me, you old man.
It's look, some things are walkable, but other things they hit you with the mirage, and it's like, oh yeah, it's right there, and then you walk for 30 minutes.
They
and
make you walk over that bridge every night at Mania, man. Get the step in.
But I mean, like you can go see a show. So I did a few shows for the Collective, which is at Palms, and like it's great because you could do the shows, then you could go out to the casino. And then you could gamble, you can wager on things, and then you can come back and you can see more wrestling, or you can hop in an Uber, go to another venue like where FSW is doing stuff, or there was like the West Coast Pro, Deadlock Pro, and Prestige group doing shows. So there's just shows everywhere that are very easy to get to. Of course, all the WWE related stuff is easy to get to. It's all centralized. It just feels like a perfect city for WrestleMania. Now you are a Las Vegas guy. So what are your thoughts?
I actually liked it in being in Vegas. Kind of a spoiler, I did SummerSlam 2021, so I kind of understood the layout of it all. But you're right. There's so many open spaces and conference rooms that turn into wrestling things. I didn't get to do many things this weekend. I did the Hall of Fame, and Booker T was praying. I saw him. I would totally vouch for him. He prayed really hard that last hour, man. But other than that, it really is kind of like Super Bowl, but meets Comic-Con, right? People always say WrestleMania is the Super Bowl, but you don't see other Canadian Football League games happening at the same time. So I don't know what that means for other venues like Crown Jewel or SummerSlam, but WrestleMania is definitely a wrestling fan's paradise city. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and what's cool is because so many different companies are there and so much going on. Obviously, when you're there, you have the potential to run into a WWE superstar or
Oh
see them
yeah.
at any of their different signings and things. But if you follow wrestling outside of WWE, you have a great opportunity to see a lot of other wrestlers from other companies doing things just around and out and about, or see them close up at a show. I think that, again, I always say too, if you're a wrestling fan, you got to try going to an indie show at some point, because I think it gives you a much greater respect for the things that those people are doing. I had the chance to call 2 shows, Defy for the Collective and Progress, and just to be honest, I got to tell you, there were dreams come true. Flobo, some of the people I got
Mm.
to call matches for, I got to call a match for the Rock and Roll Express, like
Whoa.
which is madness to me that we are in
Yeah.
the year of our Lord 2025, and
Yeah, I
and
forgot.
the Rock and Roll Express, who felt like they were winding down 35 years ago, are
Right.
still having matches, and I got to call one of those, and but also I got to call a Nina Samuels match, and for longtime fans of the show, they know that I am a
Yeah.
big Nina Samuels fan. So that was
Only OGs know this though. This is like
a
before Wrestling Inc. Like that's
yeah,
how far back you have to go.
yeah. I've always been a big fan of hers, and there was just, of course, a lot of other people along the way that you get to bump into,
Dude.
and they went to high school with the Lord.
Jesus is always cutting class. I'm out here having a
Yeah,
sermon. Okay.
yeah. Jesus was a freshman when they were seniors too.
Right. Jeez. Easter was Sunday, man. Come on.
But like, it was just you can't thank the people enough for letting you to be a part of stuff like that. But yeah, just everyone, it's just a cool thing. Like GCW, the Collective, this was the 3rd year I've worked with them, and I always recommend, if you're in town for those shows, you've got to go check out that list of shows. Bloodsport, as we've seen now on, like, they showed clips of it on NXT, tons of WWE wrestlers are there. It's
Crazy.
just such a unique experience in pro wrestling. Always, you got to get those tickets early because that thing sells out pretty quick.
Absolutely. And rightfully
Uh,
so.
very rightfully so. But yeah, just getting to yeah, see those people and work with those people. I hope that when they do it again in New Orleans, I'm able to come back and do it again. But yeah, WrestleMania, a very fun week to work there as well.
Well, nobody
Any,
booked me because I'm washed up, but I hear you. If I was going to have a job, I would tell them to do it WrestleMania week.
um, you know, but let me ask you about WrestleMania with your experience. So,
Okay.
you were there, you were at the venue. Now, I know we're going to get all caught up into the details
Yeah. I got.
of
Oh, let me do the tease first. So, ladies and gentlemen, check out the show. We're talking about WrestleMania, Stand Deliver, and the news and notes of the week. But first, Jack has a pressing question.
I I would love, like, I would thought this was an interesting WrestleMania for a number of reasons. There was a lot of strong opinions about WrestleMania this year, and especially, I know the main event. We're going to talk about the main event in a little bit.
Sure.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but talk to me about your thoughts on how WrestleMania was presented for you this year, because I felt like we definitely reached an inflection point in the way WWE is kind of presenting themselves, or the way things are going. But I want to
Mhm.
know what your thoughts are on the WrestleMania experience.
So, and I actually wrote a blog about this on my blog, justthisandwich.com. Check it out. It's a Substack. It's about sports and comedy all meshed together. The show was amazing. It was phenomenal. Maybe I'm a bit jaded, maybe I'm a bit older, maybe I'm seeing the business change. This is my 4th WrestleMania live. I went to 26, 38, 39, and now 41. It's kind of like, to your point, at the top. Like, wrestling is getting hot. If it's not hot already, it's on fire right now. So we heard. But I felt like we're at critical mass. Like, I didn't know how big you can do this. You had a storyline last year that culminated after 4 years of build. It really felt like you got the loud noises, the lights, the crowd interactions, but almost like the wrestling itself has no path to meet the expectations of what a WrestleMania should be in 2025, maybe to its detriment, maybe to its advantage. So I was kind of torn. I enjoyed the show. Both halves felt like they were only 90 minutes long in the seat. It would by a clip. But I also understand people saying, "Oh man, last year was better because of X, Y, and Z."
Yeah, the I thought the shows were good, but I definitely feel like watching this one, I know wrestling fans for so many years have talked about how the business is important. They always talk about ratings and they talk about gates and the money that's made by these companies. I've never really been a big fan of that kind of
Yeah.
discussion. I mean, I want everyone to make money, but I don't really I don't really care about ratings or those kind of things. This felt like the first WrestleMania where the success of WWE really started to feel like they were kind of pulling away from a lot of fans,
Yeah.
I think. And whether it be just the cost of the tickets, which were obviously a big issue. Now, again, they made more money than they've ever made before. So I don't think they
Right.
care what a guy with a podcast says. But I look at, like, even as I'm watching the show, and I'm watching Jey Uso come out for this big moment, but he has to stop by the Slim Jim group, and
Yeah.
again, I know you got to make the sponsors happy. And I'm watching Drew McIntyre come out with a sponsored entrance, and I'm watching the War Raiders come out with a sponsored entrance, and I'm watching these other people like Dana White have to get pointed out in the crowd, the UFC fighters to promote UFC, and Tony
Multiple
Hinchcliffe.
times.
And I get you want stars there, but it definitely feels like WWE it's still great. Don't get me wrong. It feels like it's starting to get to this point though, where it's kind of leaving a lot of the base wrestling fans behind as it
Right.
tries to transcend into this next thing. And I sort of worry about where that leaves a lot of us.
Well, I don't want to defend them, right? Because they're a corporation that doesn't know I'm alive. But hardcore fans don't give him any money, right? And I'm like you. I kind of like the way how Stand and Deliver tastefully had ads on the mat. If you're going to do that, because I was listening to something to wrestle with Conrad this week, and he said Vince never did that at all. He believed the ring was sacred. But you
Mhm.
having the ads being different sizes and shapes and colors is weird, and it does feel more like Formula One where the key to going is getting the hospitality packages and show your friends that you're there rather than the art and thing of wrestling. But at the same time, though, if they don't have a second approach, maybe live events that are cheaper or whatever, you are going to leave friends behind. But here's the thing, and here's the sad and tragic thing. They make their money on those big money marks, corporate suites, the giant, like you've won contest things. Guys who go two to shows a year, one show a year, you know you're not someone who's going to put a lot of money up a year. Why cater to you at all? It's not going to be a problem now, maybe 10 years from now when the business cools down, but of course they're going to go focus where the money is right now.
Yeah, it's I think it's again, they're making money, and that's the point. And I know a lot of people are probably very happy for them. A lot of people who can't afford to go to the shows are probably very happy for them. But so they're fine now. I just do worry it can happen. It can happen quick. Losing your fans or leaving them behind, and sort of going past the point of no return. And again, when I look at how many shows they're doing, and the price tag of the shows, and the price tag of the merch, and again, the shows themselves, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more a little bit later, but like the pacing of some of the shows, how they have to throw in so many sort of sponsored moments or city shout outs or things like this. It's kind of one of the like things where a lot of people get turned off by like a UFC, where they have only so much fighting and then so much like sponsorship and talking about stuff and things you throw in between the fights and in between the stuff that matters. And I worry that they're going to get to a point where fans are starting to go, I look at the build to this WrestleMania, and I think a lot of people weren't as excited about it. I think a lot of that has to do less with the wrestlers and less with what we were being presented, and more the way it was being presented to us, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Chris Bricks in the chat has something I kind of agree with. There was a lot of in-your-face advertising, which has always been a part of WrestleMania. But yeah, once you get ads on the mat and they're like full color, that was distracting. You can't be like, oh my gosh, the championship won next to the Clash of Clans logo in the center of it all. And Stephen Camp says, I think WrestleMania would have done better if it was a few weeks earlier and it wasn't Easter. But this is the point we're trying to make. The reason why it was Easter this year is that Vegas paid a site fee, which means they paid WWE to have the show there because Easter weekend tends to be a slow weekend in Las Vegas. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the matches, there was some news announced over the weekend, two parts. One, WWE, not to bury the lead, bought Triple A from Mexico, one of the two biggest promotions in the area, other one being CMLL. And the second one was that the city of Los Angeles on June 7th will have two pay-per-views or two PLEs on the same day. One is a Worlds Collide with NXT, the other is Money in the Bank. To your point, Jack, let me ask you, we are sucked dry as fans. Is this a smart move if there ever was one?
Well, as far as purchasing AAA, I'm a little hesitant about. I mean, it's great for a WWE again. I know a lot of people are excited because, again, I think sometimes we get excited for a company doing well and a company buying stuff, and sometimes I feel like we root a little too much for the company. Again, this is great if you're TKO. You just got a library, you got an extra roster, you've got a foundation in another country, you've got a lot here. This is great for them. I just know historically as a fan of things, when a big company starts consolidating all the little companies, that usually doesn't work out super well for fans of that thing.
Give Monopoly the chance.
Usually that's not great for the people who are fans of those things. And so I'm a little concerned. Now, again, this might be something where they own them and then we never really know because it's all separate and it's different and who cares. But it does worry me a little bit when I see a company the size of WWE purchasing a company as big as AAA, and I see them working so closely with the TNA, and I don't know what connections they have as far as running the company goes, but you start to go, well, TNA is tied to them. I would have rather a TNA relationship with AAA as opposed to a complete buyout. But then, there's rumors about what could be next to be purchased, and again, it worries me when I see that a big company is consolidating everything instead of those other companies having the opportunity to continue growing.
But to be fair, man, it's a different region. I mean, I know a couple of years ago there was thoughts about having the NXT Japan, NXT Mexico strategy before that was curtailed. Is that really the same thing as them saying buying GCW or buying MLW?
I think it's different because it's an opportunity, right? For people. And now you may be someone who maybe the WWE is not interested in, but AAA likes you. Well, now if WWE bought AAA, guess what? You're not welcome there either. Plus, you have one person making decisions for a bigger area. Again, I like diversity when it comes to opportunities. I like a lot of options. I like when there's the opportunity for competition. And no, I'm not saying AAA was competition for WWE, obviously, but it is something that, again, I can't think of a whole lot of examples of a time when I was like, man, this company bought all the competition. That works out really well for me. That's, you look at cable companies and things. And it's like, yeah, one company bought everything. Now you've got to go through them. And now they're not streaming all the stuff they used to. And now you don't have access to certain things. And now it costs more. And it's just, I know it's exciting because you think of the matchups and things like that. And Vikingo facing Rey Fenix, like, cool. I love that idea. But I also like the idea of a lot of companies being out there and a healthy market for wrestlers and for people who work in the wrestling industry.
And so with the two PLEs, one's Worlds Collide, one's Money in the Bank, in the same town, in the same city, across the street from each other, one's at the Forum, one's at the Intuit Dome, both in Inglewood. I'm sure fans are going to find a way to show out. But to your point, like, is this kind of like bleeding the fan base dry, giving them so many options on one day to partake? I mean, the ticket's not going to be 10 or $15. They're going to be a little bit more than that because they're both PLE level shows. What say you?
Yeah, this is going to be expensive, especially for people who just got back from Las Vegas buying a WrestleMania ticket. I'm sure they'll do well because we don't get a whole lot of wrestling here on the West Coast from these big companies. And I think this is a market that will be very happy to see the AAA stars coming over for Worlds Collide. I'm excited about the idea of a Worlds Collide match. And this is where I may sound like a hypocrite because people are like, Jack, you just talked about how you don't like these companies.
Oh, I will. You hypocrite.
This is listen, I've never said I'm not, by the way. I lean into it. But right. I will say that, so I'm excited to see these matchups. I'm excited for Worlds Collide, but that is, again, you're asking me for my entire day. You're asking me for 2 tickets, or I got to pick one or the other. You know, it reminds me a lot of AEW, and they're like, hey, we do a Ring of Honor show and a pay-per-view, and people say this show's too long. There's too many people. You got to cool it down. This is the exact same thing now that WWE's asking for it. Tickets are expensive. It's going to be pretty tough. I think they're both going to be great. I'm excited to get to see these shows. I've never been to a Money in the Bank before, so I'm excited to see that. I would love.
Oh, you're going to be there? Is that a breaking news situation? Is that a?
I mean, we'll see. I'm that person.
Oh, come on.
Famously waits till the last second to pull the trigger on tickets.
That's cheaper
Sometimes
that
it
way.
works against me, but famously, that's why, like, whenever people like in 3 weeks, this show still isn't a sellout. They're a failure. I'm like, well, I wouldn't have bought tickets for this show, and I'm probably going to. You know,
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of people like me who like that afternoon goes, okay, I'll buy the tickets. And I go.
Seriously, if you have the stomach for it, that's the way to go. Because like when I bought tickets for WrestleMania, get-in prices were $800 for the week. It got as low as $250 for the weekend, right before night one. So like that's a huge drop, but that takes a lot of chutzpah. Or as like Vince Russo would say, you need the Spaldings to pull something like that off.
The grapefruits.
The grapefruits. But let's stop bearing the lead. Let's go right into it. WrestleMania 41, 2-night WrestleMania. We're not getting those one nights anymore, which is why 35 is so much better. But anyway, talk to me about that main event. It was Cody. It was Cena. Cena had a whole new coat of paint on him, or say black and white monochrome. There was a lot of expectations going into this one, especially after last year's Mania. What we got was Travis Scott, the hardcore champ, unofficially showing up, making a distraction for Cody because he had a crisis of conscience, and Cody is no longer your WWE champion. Number 17 for the greatest of all time. People are walking out of the arena upset. I was pretty much neutral on the result. What say you? John Cena, 17-time champ. Cody Rhodes went out like a bish.
Okay. Snaps for Cena. Let's give him first snaps for the 17th time. Never been done before. Happy for John Cena. I hope someone checked in on Ric Flair and make sure he's doing okay. This was frustrating to me. I've been kind of negative so far today. I'll be honest with you, but this was frustrating. I mean, usually people say I'm always positive, but guess what? I was a little.
Not me. I never say that.
This was
I would never say.
This was a rough. I felt rough. I did not like what I saw here. And what I did not like was what I saw from the people on the internet who were all complaining about what we saw. And this is why. One, what everyone talks about, how stories in wrestling and how stories are important and how that's the most important thing. Stories aren't told in the ring. They always tell us stories aren't told in the matches. The matches are irrelevant. This was a good story. This is exactly what the story was supposed to be. John Cena has sold out. John Cena took the low road. John Cena won the championship and broke the record. That was the story. The reason people are upset is because this was a bad match. But I've seen nothing on my internet for a long time about people saying the match. Everyone tells me all the time, 5-star matches don't matter. 5-star matches, that's just a Dave Meltzer thing. And then they get a bad match, and now everyone's crabby. This was a bad match. I will give you that. It was a bad match. But everyone's told me that it's not the wrestling. It's not the moves.
It's not the wrestling.
It's the characters. It's the story. The characters were great, and the story played out exactly how it was supposed to. And I know a lot of people say The Rock was supposed to be there.
He was.
The Rock didn't need to be there. Now, don't get me
wrong. He did.
I would have enjoyed The Rock being there. But the story was about Cody and John Cena. Outside of one time The Rock being there, The Rock was irrelevant. So the fact is, if this was a good match, if this was a 5-star classic, we'd all be saying something different. But because the match stunk, because Travis Scott took 7 hours to get down to the ring, and for some reason Cody Rhodes didn't punch him in the face, he hit his move, we hate this whole thing when really it was just a bad match. And I've seen on my Twitter for so long that the match doesn't matter, the 5-star match doesn't matter. That was the only problem with this whole thing. The match
Wrong.
didn't
You're
click.
absolutely wrong, Jack. That's a problem at all. For example, I will say I didn't hate the match. But the thing is about matches and wrestling and moves and holds, it's like handwriting. You don't get brownie points for having good handwriting, but you get demerits if you have bad handwriting. The Rock turned Cena. It wasn't like Cena had his promo saying, I want to win Elimination Chamber, won it and became a baddie on his own, then you wouldn't need it. But The Rock looked at Cena, did this move or whatever, and we thought that he talked to him about something with Cody. So when that didn't happen, though I didn't mind it, I could understand people being like, well, what the heck was The Rock there to begin with? If he's going to make this guy do bad things after 20 years of not doing it, it didn't disappear. Throw a smoke bomb. I see him at UFL games. Hey, WrestleMania is way more important.
See, this is why people like you and all the fans drive me nuts.
What do you mean people like me, Jack?
You weren't paying attention. No point. By the way, The Rock never asked John Cena to sell his soul. The Rock never said John Cena sold his soul. John Cena never said he sold his soul. John Cena said the fans were toxic and he was divorcing himself from them. The fact The Rock was involved was irrelevant.
But no, it's not.
Even in John Cena's win.
It's not irrelevant.
When did The Rock ever say he had anything to do with John Cena's turn? The Rock saw it coming, so he said, "Like, go for it, homie." That's what he said. His words exactly. Homie.
That's not The Rock. If The Rock called me a homie, I'm like, who wrote your lines?
I did.
But look, it's before that because The Rock. Okay, last year was like, here's a weird gift. I'm gonna see you soon. Then he came back in January. He was like, hey, what's up?
Who did he give the gift to?
Cody Rhodes. He came.
So not just to be clear.
No, not John Cena. Not John.
Did not give anything to John Cena.
No, he did not. He came back in January. He was super jovial and almost like a face turn. People hated it. I thought it was something bigger. The Rock asked Cody for his soul. Kind of a non-exchange, but whatever. Cody says, go F yourself. And so up until this point, it looks like Cody is somehow at odds with The Rock. The night that John Cena attacked Cody Rhodes, John looked at Rock. He did the cut thing like it was in order because he didn't move until The Rock gave him that order, and it happened. Look, I know what you're saying. Rock doesn't have to be there, but you can't fault anybody who bought a $2,000 or $10,000 ticket to see WrestleMania and not get The Rock. Are you kidding me?
Listen, if you spent $10,000 on a ticket to WrestleMania, you got no one to blame but yourself. But what I'm saying is doing this, like, look, the look that John Cena gave The Rock, John Cena had already made up his mind. The Rock was just saying, dude, I'd stop you if Cody Rhodes listened to me, but he didn't. So you know what? I'm not protecting him. He's all yours, pal. That's all it was. There was never a time. John Cena never alluded to it. The Rock never alluded to it. And again, I get it. Like, here's the thing. I think the reason, of course, we always want The Rock to be there. We want The Rock to be there for WrestleMania in particular. I get being bummed out The Rock wasn't there.
Bummed out.
I'm telling you is this story and what we saw was not hinging on The Rock being there. Because even in the build-up, there was never John Cena never mentioned The Rock. And I believe even if Travis Scott didn't come out or if a bigger muscle came out, right? If whoever, if Bronson Reed came out or someone who looked like they were a threat, I'm just trying to pick someone who isn't busy with something else,
right?
Then I think we'd look at this differently. But because you had Travis Scott, who does not look like a threat in any way, shape, or form, he took forever to get down there, and it cratered the entire thing. That made the entire match feel like it hinged on that. And I think if that whole thing went smoother, if that was a barn burner matchup and something happened faster with the interference there at the end, I think we'd say this was fine. But it really came down to it being a bad match and us feeling unfulfilled.
So you had told me all weekend that you went to the sports book and put some money down on some of the matches. And did you make out on this main event at all? Is that something that you did, or you get it right?
Yeah, so I put some, I was in Vegas and I was just there to try it out a little bit,
Oh, I'll try it
try
out.
sprinkle it, you just gotta get a little taste. And I put some money down on some matches, and suddenly my fingers started feeling a little tingly. Suddenly I started to, my heart started to race a little bit. I did have money on this matchup. I won because I bet on Big Match John. How do you not? Um, Betting on wrestling matches, Flobo,
I would never. I would never.
is interesting. It's interesting. So this is I don't know if anyone in the chat or anyone watching along in the comments, let me know if you've ever put money down on a wrestling match before. I don't think I'm ever going to do it again for
What?
whatever it's worth. Don't think I'm going to do it again. I will, and this is why, because it made me, first off, the positive. I didn't bet a lot. You can't bet a lot. Actually, it caps how much you can bet when you bet. So I bet $10 on each match. There's only a few matches I didn't bet on because the odds were so ridiculous that it wasn't even worth betting on. Like, I didn't bet on Obafemi winning because you'd have had to bet $30 to win $1 if you got it right. And I was like, okay, that's not even worth the bet.
Yeah.
So I $10 on each match. What I found was the positive was there were some matches I didn't care about that I found myself invested in now because, like, hey, I bet on this person to win, so now I was into it, right? But I don't think I'm ever going to do it again. One, because I mean, come on, it's a sucker's game to do this. But two, I found myself sometimes getting so caught up in the whether or not my pick won that I lost sight of the fun of the match and the fun of the story and the fun of the wrestlers. You know what I mean?
Does your friend have a problem? Please call 1-800 Don't Job.
you know, no, like, again, I put like $10 on each match. There's no match where I was like, oh my God, my life is dependent on this. But I bet on Finn Balor, for instance, in the Intercontinental Championship match. And
Wow.
I actually assumed Dom was going to win, but the odds were so crazy. Like, the odds for Balor were crazy. Like, if you bet a couple bucks on Balor, you'd win like 200 if he got it. And I was like, it's not that unlikely. Like, it's not that crazy for him to walk away with it. So I tried. I put $10 on him. He lost, whatever. But the point is, as I'm watching this, the reason why I don't want to bet again is I found myself not even as interested in the match because I was just so caught up in, like, I hope Balor wins. And so it was this great WrestleMania moment of Dominic Mysterio winning the Intercontinental Championship, which is an entire thing. That is an incredible situation with the way the crowd got behind him.
Yeah.
That, like, crazy. Like, that I think that is a stone cold Bret Hart, ironically them going into the Hall of Fame situation where everybody
Yeah, I agree.
booed him so much and then just got behind him at WrestleMania. But I wasn't even into it the whole time. I was like, come on, Balor, I want you to win, Balor. I want you to win. I could win a lot of money. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm totally thrown off by it. Don't want to do it anymore. So I'm not going to bet on it anymore. But it was a fun experiment.
Can't believe that Dominic Mysterio pulled you from the brink. Ricky Sinclair says, Finzo, I never bet on anything you can't control. Yeah, Jack.
So basically never bet because
yeah, you're right. No, but you're right. The crowd reactions at WrestleMania were great. Whether it was Dominic Mysterio or my personal favorite when they did the CM Punk package and we all sang This Fire Burns. Like, oh my gosh, that to me was a highlight of WrestleMania. Not sure if it came through, but the fact that it's such an obscure song, but 60,000 of us knew it, which is great.
Yeah, it's an obscure song for 60,000 people.
Yeah, we hated that song too, but they played it and we were like,
I don't know if we're going to talk about that Intercontinental Championship thing, but I do think that it's shows just how good that Dominic Mysterio is. I think the beauty of it is obviously people hated him so much he couldn't even talk on a microphone, but I think he got so good at that we started to appreciate him. But to see the culmination of it where I think people were booing him because it was fun to boo him.
Yeah.
And then that moment of like, no, but you actually did it. We're so happy this person's entertaining us. Got it, that everyone cheered at the same time. It wasn't even like a mixed reaction. It was just like, I think the entire wrestling world was just like, yeah, Dominic, you did it. Like, it's actually a very cool moment.
It was cool for him, but I was utterly confused. I'm like, you guys hated this guy 2 months ago, but hey, only guy I know who was heel and turned more heel was that guy when he left Rhea Ripley for Liv Morgan. But that's just me. I'm going to go out of order here because there was a comment in the chat about this. A lot of people were saying because of how WrestleMania Night 2 ended, the real main event should have been the women's triple threat match. Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, and Io Sky for the World Women's Championship. Bianca was getting some boos out there, which is surprising to moi, but Sky retained in front of her family. Well, let me ask you this. Did it steal the show? Should it have been the main event? Or thoughts about the match?
Stealing the show is an interesting phrase. I think it stole night 2. But I think that goes back to what I was saying before. This one was one that we went into, a lot of people saying had a very weak story going into it. And they had a great match. And now we're all talking about how that should have main evented. And that was the best thing that happened night 2. So all the people who talk about how matches aren't the important part of wrestling, I think, again, should eat some crow, because sometimes the matches are important. And that's the thing everyone's talking about. Yes, I think night 2, this stole the show. I think main event night 1 is the biggest talking point. So that's, you can't really steal the show from that, because that's what we're still talking about. But man, that triple threat was incredible, and all 3 of them should be very happy. And I think all of us who complained about it being a triple threat beforehand, myself included, I'll admit it, I'm going to have a slice of crow myself, because I thought it was fantastic.
Just giving out Kirkland's signature size crow for everyone out there. It's good quality. Did your pick win that one? I don't remember.
No, I picked Bianca because Bianca is undefeated at WrestleMania, and I thought they might try to turn that into something.
Do you lose more because she got pinned in that match, or no?
No.
Okay. Hey, sorry. No, stupid. I didn't know. I don't know how betting on wrestling works.
You're such a dummy. You don't know the ins and outs of gambling on pro wrestling.
Yeah. I had no idea.
I am so close to being bum ass Corbin. It's not even funny. No, you bet, and then basically it's just whatever you bet has to happen or you lose, and that's why it's a fool's game, because like I bet on Rey Mysterio to win.
Yeah.
So he didn't get in. So there's no way I could have won that, even though
that's an unfair bet. Like you were locked into a pretense that didn't happen.
Right. That's why I don't. So even if there's a million things that can happen, and you know that could make you lose, and then it's just a fool's game. But it was fun to try it out.
Chris Brick says Dom will be one of the best in the game when it's all said and done, which is wild because everyone thought that he was just Nepo baby Mysterio. Jiro J said the match was so good, should be the story of the weekend, referring to the women's triple threat. And Ice on a Rap says, I popped when Joe Hendry and El Hijo del Vikingo appeared. Joe Hendry was Randy Orton's mystery partner. Aldis was talked about, Solo was talked about, maybe even returning Rusev was talked about, but it was Joe Hendry, and people went absolutely nuts. Let's talk about their appearance of Joe Hendry, but more or less the strategy of introducing the TNA World Champ to WWE audiences through NXT.
Well, I did some gambling this weekend.
Just stop with the gambling
in Las Vegas, but I think who rolled the dice was Triple H and Joe Hendry here. Because look, we've always talked about, do these TNA stars have that crossover, big name appeal? Are people in a giant stadium going to know who the TNA World Champion is? And I think that this showed an emphatic yes. People know who Joe Hendry is. Yes, he's a star. I think you could say, there's a very big chance he comes out there, that music plays, and only a few people know it. And everyone's like, who is this? Well, it could have gotten boos. It could have gone very poorly.
Def Rebel. I said it.
So basically, Joe Hendry should be the one doing all the music for WWE going forward.
That'd be hilarious, actually.
Every single song is say their name and they appear. I believe it. And then whoever the person is,
right.
Randy Orton.
Yeah.
And so it was a huge roll of the dice, but it paid off big. And now WWE knows they have a star. WWE knows that the investment into working with TNA is even better than maybe they thought it was, because clearly people know TNA better than possibly they thought they did. And so this was a huge roll of the dice, huge win. Great for Joe Hendry, great for Randy Orton. Incredible best case scenario for everyone involved.
There's a lot of people out there that kind of hate the fact that TNA World Champ lost his match in about 3 minutes and 41 seconds. But now that Randy Orton has attacked John Cena on Monday Night Raw, the Raw after Mania, you can argue that since Randy beat a world champion, he is number one contender, right?
Yeah, I mean, Randy Orton is a perennial number one contender. I think he can just say, I'm Randy Orton, I want a title shot. And we'd all go, yeah, that's fair.
Hey, that is not the American way, sir.
Sense win.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I have money. Hey!
We just celebrated WrestleMania 9. Hulk Hogan just said, hey, I want a title shot.
Yeah, I saw that documentary, man. Like, wow, what a jerk.
Like, speaking of, everyone talks about the bad ending to WrestleMania Night 2 this year. I mean, come on, that was a little rocky. But that said, I think Randy Orton, perennial number one contender, history with John Cena, whether it was today or tomorrow, we all want to see at least one more John Cena, Randy Orton matchup, even though I think they've had like 3 last time ever matchups already. Yeah. We want to see it. Give it to us. I'm happy. And I think that Joe Hendry, by the way, for all the talk, looked fantastic, even though it was a shorter match. I think that was perfect. I think if it went 15 minutes, we would have been over it. I think this was I think the timing of everything, I think it worked out perfect for him.
Yeah, it's interesting about the idea of being someone from a different promotion and you get to be slotted into WrestleMania. I'm not sure what the vibes are, especially for somebody who didn't get to be on the card, but pretty cool with Joe Hendry out there because he had everyone waving side to side. But in the interest of time, we got to move on because one of the greatest moments from Sunday, because we're doing a very Sunday heavy review show, was our opening matchup between Jey Uso and Gunther. Now, this was another matchup that was a good match. So take your little bad match defense out the window, son. But Gunther tapped out. He said, oh, owie, owie, owie. Main event Jey Uso is too strong, which is something I wouldn't have bet my money on at all. So thoughts about the match, thoughts about how it ended, and what it means for main event Jey Uso.
I thought this was another one where everyone who doubted Jey Uso going into this one has a lot of crow to you. You said Kirkland. I think Costco. We're going to need a lot of crow.
That's here. Costco's brand.
See, when a company buys everyone else, there's problems, Flobo.
They put their signature on everything.
I think that was a really fun match. And it started off a little slow, picked up. They got me in the end. Jey Uso feels like a world champion to me after that. I think that Gunther, you see just how good he is and how much he made Jey Uso feel like a world champion, getting him to tap out. And it shows how powerful Gunther tapping out is. I thought this was executed perfectly. I loved that matchup. We talked about that. That also could have been a good main event final match of the night if you were to put it out there. Unfortunately, there's only 2 nights. Only 2 get to close the show. Yeah. But I thought this was great. And I loved the Raw aftermath. I think the way Gunther handled it is the exact thing you need to do to give Gunther something important that is not
choke out Pat McAfee?
Yeah, choking out Pat McAfee. Should get Michael Cole next.
Stop,
in fact,
stop.
Take them all out until I have no one left but Jack Farmer.
Jack, because you're a late period WWE historian and a long-term fan. When creative has nothing for you to get any kind of things going on, what you do is attack the announce team, like Stone Cold hitting the chair to Jim Ross, Taz going after Jerry Lawler. It never works out for the person doing this sort of thing.
It's something for him to do that isn't just going right back after the championship. Because so often we see people say, okay, well, I want my rematch. And then he loses a second time in a row. And it's like, great, now he looks even worse. Choking out somebody like Pat McAfee keeps him someone that we all hate. Well, some of us hate him. Some of us like, depending on how you feel about Pat McAfee, I guess. I like Pat McAfee. But
Corey Graves laughed at it. So
Corey Graves is like, maybe I'm going to get my spot back.
Right. He's not. He is totally not.
So I loved it. I thought it got people talking. I think this gives Gunther something to do that is going to be relevant and talked about and interesting. That isn't just going, okay, I guess I'll go back to the Intercontinental Championship, or, you don't have to chase championships all the time. I think this is a good non-championship thing for him to do that he will likely come out with a win. It'll be talked about. I think this is a fantastic follow-up for Gunther. I don't know who the first challenger to Jey Uso is going to be, but I think right now Gunther is set.
I know that people kind of didn't like the idea of Jey Uso being the Rumble winner and winning the title, but I have a quick anecdote. I know bore your ears off. So on the way back from Mania,
Too late.
yeah, too late. Goodbye. I stopped into a burger joint, and it was like in one of those like cities out in the desert. Like the lady was working the counter, her son was like doing his homework in one of the booths, and he was watching Jey Uso's match from Mania, and I walked up to him and I started doing one of those like I'm yeeting, but I also know I'm outside of a wrestling space. Is this okay? And he started yeeting too. And his mom was like, "Oh, don't encourage him now." And I go, "Holy crap. This is the John Cena. This is the Shawn Michaels. I'm a sexy boy." Like, people get our age get old and bitter about Jey Uso doing goofy stuff. But for kids, the next generation of long-term fans, this is perfect,
Oh yeah, and the yeet thing is something that I can absolutely see kids doing in schools. I can see if I was in school right now, I would totally be the kid that's going like yeet all the time, and yeah, I'd be instead of doing cross chops, I guess I'd be doing yeet. So it's just probably annoying to teachers, but not as bad as the cross chops.
We used to be a proper country. Just a quick anecdote before we go into our next major story here. Einstein Rap says, "Do you think Logan Paul, after his win of the phenomenal AJ Styles, is going to beat Jey Uso for the title down the line? A lot more plausible for Logan Paul compared to his former attempts against someone like Roman Reigns. Jack, do you see it happening?"
It certainly is possible. But I look at the history of the championship reigns over the past few years, and they go pretty long. I don't think that there's anything that happened this week that is going to tip the hand of who's going to beat Jey Uso for that championship. I got a feeling Jey Uso is going to have a significant run, at least a couple months, probably 6 months, maybe at least get to like a SummerSlam or a Survivor Series with it. I don't see him dropping it quickly. So Logan Paul is someone I could see as the world champion. I think he'd probably be very good for business as the world champion, as they say, but I don't think that he's going to lose that title anytime soon.
Chris Briggs has a question. I'm going to ask it first, and we got to go back in time to make some sense of this. He goes, "This is the faction that Paul Heyman is running. Definitely need 2 more people. 1 woman, 1 guy in Seth's faction. Since you said questions, if you were to add 1 of each gender, who would you want to join?" So he's referring to Saturday night's main event. It was Roman Reigns, it was CM Punk, it was Seth Rollins, and Paul Heyman was in CM Punk's corner, or so we thought. It was a double turn. Paul walks away with Seth. Jack was right about that. I was wrong because I thought there would be a blue chipper that Paul would align himself with. In 48 hours, we knew who that blue chipper was. It was a former Intercontinental Champion, Braun Breaker, and Seth Rollins was seen hanging out with Braun Breaker in the middle of the ring after their exchange. And so I got to ask you, Jack, 2 questions. Thoughts about the past 48 hours, of course, but the idea of adding more to a faction we don't even know is official?
So Chris Bricks, I kind of agree. I don't think anything is definite or needs. I feel like someone like Paul Heyman can make anything work. So if it's just these 2, I think it'll be fine. That said, I like the idea of adding some folks to it. I think it'd be fun to bring some folks in. I think if I'm looking at 1 of each, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I think if I was to add a female to the group, I add Bayley. I know a lot of people are going to say Becky Lynch just because of what she did. That seems, I don't know. I'm not into that. Bayley, though, she has a reason. Look, she had an opportunity to be at WrestleMania, and then look what happened. Taken away from her. We look at the interviews she had with CVV. I think she is someone who would absolutely, in the proper way, sell her soul to a Paul Heyman to try to get back everything that she should have had. Someone who will kick down those doors for her. I think Bayley fits in with this group stylistically a lot better than anybody else. So I'd go a Bayley in that spot. And as far as a male, I'd go 2 males. Here's the thing. I'd go 2 people. I've seen some names thrown out. But I would call up young Trick Williams, and I'd pair him right back with his old pal Carmelo Hayes, and I would make them the tag team of this group. Carmelo and Trick, bring them back together to go after the tag team championships.
That is crazy because then you have to call up Trick and then trade both to SmackDown at that point.
Yeah, you got Paul Heyman. He can make anything happen, though. And it's post-WrestleMania. Stuff happens,
Yeah, I would have picked Becky and Omos myself. Einstein Rap asks, also, Flobo, were you devastated that Bayley was removed from her tag team match at Mania? Yes, and no. So those of you who know, I'm a long-term fan. I'm a huge fan of Bayley. She's my favorite wrestler on the roster, irrespective of gender. I have way more merch than Bayley than everybody else. Yes, WrestleMania comes once a year. That comes with the payday. Bayley is in everything she's ever asked for. But the problem is in WWE, if you're good at what you do, if you're a workhorse, you don't get the opportunities. And that's what we really got from that CVV interview. Like, hey, look, I'm just doing what I'm giving. But if you didn't realize how Bayley was integral of getting the new class women up and acclimated, if you didn't notice how she carried the pandemic on her back, going after Michael Cole, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. And I said this earlier on the Women's Wrestling Talk today. Shout out to Cedric Welton and that group. So was I upset? Yes. But what we saw transpired this weekend and on Monday, maybe it's for the best. Bayley's now outside of that division. Maybe she can go into bigger and better things.
Well, I like that you said that because you're talking about this person who's been a workhorse, someone who is always there elevating the division, always there as a backbone of the company, but always gets passed up for people who are perceived as bigger stars. You know what that sounds like to me?
Where are you going with this?
That sounds like Seth freaking Rollins, the guy who also is always passed up by guys like Roman Reigns or at the time Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk. Even though he's the backbone, there all the time, a good soldier making the best with what he has. That is exactly what Bayley is. That's why Bayley should be in this group with them. I think they fit together perfectly here.
I don't disagree.
And Carmelo's with the Miz, so I mean, I think we can all agree that he's a good soldier.
Yeah, exactly. The Miz guy get you over. No, Miz is the Andy Dalton of wrestling. But I get it. I don't hate the idea. I just kind of feel like Becky's right over there. You turned her. Well, why not?
I don't know. It feels too easy for me.
Fine. So speaking about things that weren't easy, was the return of Rusev? No, not Miro, y'all. It's Rusev, and he has abs, and he's mean. And well, look, I like the idea that Miro / Rusev has a new home. And he's able to work his craft for a paycheck, and I hope he gets integrated into the Raw roster as quickly as possible. But I do have some questions. I mean, we're on a roster where we have monsters. I know Bronson Reed is on the shelf, but Miro doesn't look that bigger than anyone else so far in that group. Is he going to find a way to slot in on any part of the card, or will he be someone who may be primed to be lost in the shuffle?
I want to say that we talk about certain wrestlers and how difficult it is to get their name right when they move from one company to another, like Daniel Bryan to Bryan Danielson, or many of the other folks that have tried to make that jump and we keep getting it wrong as they go from one company to the other. Edge, Adam Copeland, obviously it gets tough. We mix it up. For some reason,
not for me.
Rusev and Miro, very easy. I have no problem calling him Rusev now. When he moved to AEW, I had no problem calling him Miro. It just, for some reason, very easy. I get the name right. As soon as I see him, I'm like, oh yeah, Rusev.
Does he look like a Rusev, or does he look like a Miro?
He looks like both, and it just works.
No, stop.
He does. That one, look, I mix up. I always have trouble when I try to. Now I'm so used to saying Bryan Danielson, I have trouble remembering Daniel Bryan. But when he first made the jump, it was the opposite. It's like, this is so tough to get it right.
He is Ari Cesaro to me, but I hear you.
Rusev, it's easy. Well, Cesaro and Claudio is another one. I always mix myself up. I always try to call him Cesaro Castagnoli. So
that works, yeah.
So it's but for some reason he works. I think speaking of jumping back and forth, this return felt very AEW to me, and the way AEW would do a return, in that you have this big segment happen before it, you have a big segment happen after it, and he just kind of randomly comes in and attacks people, and you don't really know what's going on. You're like, okay,
that's what you people want. Do you know how many wrestling
people?
I mean, you people who look like you. Do you know how many wrestling podcasts are like, oh, he should come back and get the title and beat people up? Well, here you go, champ. Someone showed up and beat people up.
Well, I know people say that, but I spent the first half of the show wagging my finger at those people.
Fair. I'm just saying, man.
I mean, look, I don't think I'm not one of those people that's going to go overboard like a lot of podcasts do. I don't say, oh, he's ruined, or, oh, this is stupid. I mean, obviously he just showed up. It just felt a little bit like it was wedged between two big segments, and he just kind of came out, ran a singles guy attacking a tag team. So is he a tag team now? Is
Yeah.
he good? Like, what are we? I don't really understand what his role is here. It felt very, like I said, it felt like something that AEW would do, and we would criticize AEW for how they did it.
So so it's not so much about the return or the debut of Rusev, it's just the timing and where it was in the card.
I also I'm a little confused why he attacked a tag team.
Right.
Like, what
Because he has things to do. You
I
know,
don't know what
he's
his
the best man.
I don't know what that best man is still on my Spotify workout playlist.
I like the Redeemer stuff. I think
I have
someone
that one on there too.
who beats you up in the name of the Lord is pretty fun. Like, I would buy that merch in the WWE sense because no one else is doing that. I know Karrion Kross tried that with the Final Testament, sort of, but to beat someone up and be like, "Hey, I'm going to pray on Sundays," I don't know. I'm all about that.
Yeah, I'll say if he said that or they introduced it that way or something, or if he says it next week, I'll go, okay, cool, I get it. I'm on board too. I get it. But as of now, it was just like, okay, we're about to have what looks like a tag team championship match. Rusev's here. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, he's attacking Alpha Academy. Goodbye. Like,
Look, if I got to get myself in, I will totally attack Alpha Academy. I just get my SN stuff right there.
well, he's lucky that Akira Tozawa was only ready for the New Day because Tozawa would have roasted him.
No, man, no one's ready for Tozawa. Apparently, yeah.
Nobody.
The power of
Nobody.
Tozawa. Yeah, I'm getting New Day are champs. That match, a lot of people actually left my section to use the bathroom when that match happened. I was like, hey.
The New Day has been a treasure, by the way, with the time they've gotten. So I've actually really enjoyed them. This is my favorite version of the New Day in a long time.
Again, I think Kofi is charismatic, and I'll leave it at that. But hey, you know what? You don't get to do that for that long if you're not good at what you do. So,
yeah. Well, there you go.
if those of you who care, the only time I actually was like, I'm going to use the bathroom was the Priest McIntyre match. I was like, you know what? These guys 6 months ago could have been fighting for the world title. They're not. Therefore, I'm getting a hot dog.
It was a fun match, though. You missed a fun one.
That's what I hear.
I mean, Drew McIntyre did a tope suicida flipping over the top rope. That was just someone that big doing it is incredible.
Yeah. WrestleMania was huge, and so was the Raw after Mania. Before we move on to Stand Deliver, did you have any other final news notes about what you saw?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. Again, it felt there were times when it felt a little slow paced as far as not the matches, but kind of the stuff in between the matches. I felt like I wish they could have picked it up a little bit, but again, it's Mania. It's okay. I thought the show was good. I had a fun time. I do think the final match, in my opinion, wasn't a good match, but I think the story is right. And I think we're where we're supposed to be story wise, which is what everyone tells me is the most important thing.
Yeah, my favorite match of the weekend, no, my favorite match of WrestleMania definitely was El Grande Americano against Rey Fenix. And that was another match people cared about who won and who lost. But at the same time, if you're Rey Fenix, man, like you got to wrestle at WrestleMania. Like that to me should be a feather in your cap because you're only in the roster for a month. So, but Chris Briggs, we're going to talk about my favorite match of the weekend because we're now moving over to Stand and Deliver super early in the morning, 8:30 local time. Doors were open. That's a.m. after the Hall of Fame ended at 1:30 a.m. local time the morning before. I could not make it. So I saw it on replay, and people are saying Stand and Deliver as an NXT show, as an early NXT show, pound for pound, was the best WWE produced event of the weekend.
I really enjoyed it as well. I don't know if I'd say pound for pound best. Maybe it was. It was pretty close. I think what's weird is when I look at night one, it felt like a little bit slower undercard, but great main event. And it was the opposite on night two. It felt like a great undercard, weaker main event. I think my possibly match of the weekend was the 4-way for the women's championship. That one really, to me, if we're talking about just matches, stole the WWE weekend, in my opinion. Yeah. That one was really good. I thought that one was it was almost like the stuff that came after it was great too, but like it was one of those ones that was so good, everything else kind of felt like, oh man, you got a lot to live up to, guys.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So let's talk about this. It was Sandy Vaquer, it was Julia, who's been on a vendetta. There's been Jordan Grace, who kind of feels like an uncrowned champion on some level, and Jada Parker, which 6 months ago was the hottest act in NXT. In my opinion, I think Jada Parker kind of failed the entrance assignment. Everyone seemed bigger than Jada Parker. She's like, "Hey guys, what's up? Made a wrestle." Like, "Hey, Miss Parker, what are you
Yeah.
doing?" But when the bell rang, it really was an intense, hard-hitting bout from everyone involved, and it really felt like Sandy that care was in danger of losing the title.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues when you are someone like Jada Parker, where you are, um, she's not someone who has like devil horns on her head. She's someone who's a very real person. And so when you come out, that's how you present yourself down the walkway. But it's WrestleMania weekend. Yeah, you got to
Yeah,
have a big entrance. And so you're right. It did feel like maybe she didn't have the entrance. I thought once the bell rang, she was great. And I
right.
think, like you said, all four of these individuals are people who have such high ceilings in WWE and are all stars today, not just tomorrow. And that's why you see them showing up on Raw after Mania, which is insane when you think about it. How
Oh
much
yeah.
NXT was on Raw after Mania, which is typically used for the biggest stars of the moment. Um, I think Stephanie Vaquer is going to be such a big star. I
Uh,
think she's going to be so upper echelon star.
Real quick, I do think that Jada needs her old music back or something along that lines which she can saunter to instead of being like boop, doop, doop, doop. But let's talk about Stephanie because when she was signed, no, I take it back. When she was on that with that match with Mercedes, the whole world, I think, the North American leaning wrestling audience took notice.
Mhm.
WWE signed it, thought it was a coup for them. She went to NXT, and automatically we were like, she's going beyond the coverage. NXT Women's Champion, we're kind of like, not really. You deserve to be on top. She's on top now. She's doing press conferences. She's doing WWE Espanol channel. She's on Monday Night Raw, the Raw after Mania, which is arguably the biggest Raw of them all. Look, we talk about strapping the rocket to somebody, but it kind of feels like Stephanie McCare is strapping her own rocket to herself at this point.
Which I think at the end of the day, that's the key, right? That's what grabbing the brass ring is people talk about you have to have the rocket strapped to you. People talk about how, Braun Breaker is having the rocket strapped to him. If you look what Braun Breaker's been doing, he's strapped the rocket to himself. Obafemi is strapping the rocket to himself. Stephanie Vaquer, she's strapping the rocket to herself. And I think that's why their ceiling is so high. And I think you look at some of the people who we had high hopes for, and it didn't necessarily work out. I think maybe sometimes, and sometimes it's out of your hands. I don't want to put this on anybody. I don't know what's
Mm-hmm.
in the locker room, but maybe they didn't strap the rocket on themselves in the right ways. And man, I look at Stephanie Vaquer and every test she's been given, she hasn't just passed, but she's gotten like extra credit on. She's every like she there's not a weakness I see in her.
Yeah, and it totally helps when Booker T pays attention during your matches.
Right. And he's not praying.
Yeah, he's not praying. He prays every Tuesday between 5 and 7 p.m. Pacific. That's
Uh, I mean, but even because I know some people say, English isn't her first language, but even the way she speaks in her English still has that gravitas to it, It still has that, like, oh, I got to listen to this person. I understand that she's not speaking like Paul Heyman or The Rock, but you still listen to every word she's saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, you come out with the horns. You call yourself both the Dark Angel and La Primera. It's like, yeah, whatever you got. You got 30 seconds. Wow me, and
Yeah.
that's worth its weight in gold. Where WWE's roster is so big, where people can come out and you're like, okay, that's spunky girl number one. That's cocky heel guy number two, etc. etc. I said a rap has something I want to talk real quick. I know I wasn't going to focus on this, but Fraxium should have dropped the title instead of Hardy instead of Heavy Machinery 2.0. I thought it would be like the Hype Squad, whatever that Matt Cardona Mojo Rally thing was. But you're right. After months and months of dodging opponents, it's actually Hank and Tank after some advice from Street Profits. So now you're NXT Tag Team Champions. I think ultimately this is for the greater good, but I couldn't see it coming. I would have bet on Fraxium here.
Yeah, me too. Uh,
Not to mention it.
yeah. Now that you mention it, I voted on Fraxium. I will be homeless.
Can I have a couch? All right.
No, I sold it. The bookies took it. The Fraxium, as I was watching this match, I just couldn't help but think about how there may not be a better team in wrestling right now, at least, or that I can remember that makes every match feel like this is the one they're going to lose, and then find a way to pull out a win every time. And now they didn't win this one. The whole time I was watching, I was like, man, they're going to find a way to pull this one out. But they're so good at giving you that, like, man, they're not going to be able to pull this one out. This is going to be the time they fall apart and they make it work. That team is a team that I was very slow to embrace. But, if you're talking about modern day greatest tag teams in NXT history, I can't do the math. I can't think off the top of my head because I'm saying this from the gut, Flobo. I didn't do any
FCR,
research.
DIY, Street Profits,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, their run. This has to be
American Alpha.
This has to be one of the best tag team runs of NXT. Like
I would say the past couple of years, but I mean,
that's what I'm
there's
saying.
some undisputed era. Like
I'm kind of a kind of a prisoner of the moment.
I'm about to say, man, Adam Cole,
Like,
baby.
I know, but they were great. But like even undisputed era, it was the group. It wasn't just the tag team run.
Same with
Where
Imperium, I guess. Yeah.
this is the tag team and like their story and who they are as their characters. Will they stay together? Will they break up? The friction within Fraxium and can they handle it? And like it was just as a standalone tag team living a story on their own, regardless of who they were facing. It was a masterclass in being a great tag team. And I think that a team like Hank and Tank, because they were the underdogs, is what makes them beating them so great, because this was the one team that had the opportunity to not look like they were going to beat Fraxium, and they did. And I think that that's kind of the magic of them winning. And I think Hank and Tank is one of those teams that, because they're lovable losers, being in a championship situation, it's very Mighty Ducks, and the pros of that is Mighty Ducks is a great movie. Quack, 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 V formation.
Some of them were good movies. Yeah.
Some of them. Well, you stop watching after the first one when it comes to those Disney movies, Flobo. That's the trick.
I didn't know. Dang.
You don't watch Bad News Bears Go to Japan, Flobo.
I'm sorry. I wish someone stopped me.
You stop at the first one. But that's the point. That's where it'll be interesting is the Mighty Ducks ends. Bad News Bears ends. What do we do when the underdogs are the champion? Because you can't be the underdogs when you're the champion. Right. You know what I mean? So how are they going to adjust there? Because if they get beat right away, I'm going to say, well, okay, you guys, that was lame. Why'd that happen? If they continue to win, I'm not going to buy into this like, oh, shucks, we got to find a way to make things work. You're the champions. What are you talking about? Oh, shucks. So it'll be very interesting to see how they play this.
I like them. Again, once the Street Profits said, know who you are. Once a main roster tag team gives you platitudes, you got the buff forever. I get it. But if I was in that division, I'm thinking open season. Hey, Nathan Frazier and Axiom is kind of like quick. Maybe they might like hook a leg and I might go, whoa. But if I am Dark State, if I am whatever the culling, if I am any one of those groups, man, like even Josh Briggs, who has the #1 contendership next week with Nakamura, then what's his name? I gotta look it up. Anyway, he's #1 contender. Yeah, I would say they have an easier chance now because Hank and Tanks are lovable losers.
Right. Well, exactly. If I see them get through them next week, and then I see them get through Dark State, and then I see them get through No Quarter Catch Crew, eventually I'm like, you can't be walking around being like, I'm just happy to be here. Shucks. How are we gonna, I'm gonna need to see a character progression. So
I'm going to be Yoshiki Inamura.
Yoshiki Inamura. He has one of those names. I can't get it until I hear the first name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I want to say Nakamura. I'm not the comparer, but it's like, I want to be Nakamura because that's the brand I know. But Yoshiki Inamura, got your name right. Respect. Nah.
Yes. No, he's actually one of my favorites right now. That team is actually one of my favorites right now. They've struck some like random pair up gold with those guys.
All right. I'm going to tell Nico Vance because he's going to beat your ass after this.
No, don't say that to Nico. It'll hurt his feelings.
I want to get your thoughts about this. The deterioration of the family. The Angelos family looks like they were going to be one of the last or like one of the biggest NXT 2.0 characters. They had a match this weekend. Didn't really go out their way when Stacks decided to throw a boot into his boss. We got some cinematics on Tuesday. It looks like it's going to be some sort of gang warfare or civil war. I don't know, man. Of all the things that have been 2.0 that have gone away, I hate to see the family wrap it up.
Maybe I still have some Stockholm syndrome from the Thunderdome era, but I love me a good cinematic. I love these things, baby.
No!
I'm on board. You know what? I am 100% Team Stacks here.
What?
I don't like Luca Crucifino, by the way, being like, think about all the times that Tony helped you out. I believe it was Stacks that helped Tony get out of prison. I believe it was Stacks that has bailed out Tony again and again and again. And what has Stacks ever gotten to show for it? Absolutely nothing. Stacks didn't get to be the North American champion. Stacks never had Tony D'Angelo pushing Stacks to get title opportunities or a chance to be the front and center guy. Tony D'Angelo always taking things himself. I think Stacks is 100% right. I stand by him. And I think that Tony, if anything, owes Stacks an apology and should let Stacks run the family because clearly Tony wasn't running it very well, Flobo. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in this situation.
Hold on. Is there nothing for loyalty? I mean, he is a capo of the family, which means trust was agreed upon. And you're saying it's not enough? You got to be able to topple the guy on top. Is it really that bad? Is it really that serious, Jack? Tell me.
Where's the loyalty for Stacks and everything he did? Look, if Stacks was the one that went to prison, I don't think Tony D'Angelo would have helped him out. I think Stacks would still be sitting in there.
Objection.
And I know that because
gross assumption.
I say that because everyone else in the family who didn't get along with Tony, they got thrown in the river. They're gone.
Oh yeah.
You haven't seen the other guy whose name who I forgot his name.
Two dimes, yo. That's a deep cut.
2 dimes.
He was out of a river.
What happened to 2 dimes, huh? Did they get someone else in the trunk of a car too? I can't remember.
Because No Quarter Catcher got rid of Drew Gulak. Though.
Oh yeah,
they were hitman service.
Get rid of Drew Gulak. So I think Stacks is absolutely right in this situation. And look, Tony's a boss. You think Tony got there peacefully by being loyal to somebody else? Where's the guy? You notice he never talked about the guy he replaced? You know why? Because I bet he Staxed him. I bet that's what happened. I bet this is how Stacks takes over the family. I think Stacks is doing what he's supposed to do.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but he called himself the Don when he won the North American Championship. So he kind of he didn't kill anybody, if that's what you're implying.
Say that to the former North American champion.
Fine. I get it.
Where are they?
Somewhere backstage.
Who was it, by the way? I can't remember.
I don't remember. Was it Wesley? I have no idea. But that said, though, I know we're talking about 2.0 gimmicks. It looks like Chase U's coming back. Do you want to see the family evolve, change, wrap it up? Like, where do you stand on chapter 2 of the cinematic?
I think that if you are I think if you're in the family, whether you're Team Stacks, whether you're Team Tony, whether you're Team Rizzo, whether you're Team Luca, you got to look at your returns. And I feel like the family has diminishing returns. There was a time when they were set to run NXT. They were like a front runner to be one of the top things in NXT. And then they became a tag team. And then they went down to North American Championship. I don't really know what kind of returns the family's getting anymore. And so when you get to that point where you're looking around going, I don't know where we fit in, it's time to move on. And so I think it's time for the family to move on.
What does that even look like? Is it all hang out at NXT, go to separate ways? You make the call to Aldis or Adam Page?
Well, Adam P.
Yeah, Adam Pierce. There you go.
I think if you're Tony, I think it's definitely time to make the move to a Monday or a Friday, maybe under a different alias so that Stacks can't find you. You go into witness protection. That's what you do if you're Tony D. But if you're Stacks, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for you in NXT when you're not using all of your time to prop up the family.
Gerald J says, wrap it up, B. I'm with you. I thought Chase U was being wrapped up, but we'll get into more of it next week. Looks like Chase U is going to be having a second chapter, the second act, if you will. NXT is also going to be part of that Worlds Collide event with Triple Law, and it looks like some of the WWE roster as well. Way too early to do some fantasy booking, but I got to ask you, man, if there's somebody you want to see featured on something like this where they can go against other rosters, is there anyone in NXT right now you think should get the tap on the shoulder?
To face someone in AAA?
Just to be on that card, like someone that maybe we don't think about top of mind, right?
Yeah, I think no quarter catch crew, and I am embarrassed because I am forgetting his name. He's got the big curly hair.
Charlie Dempsey?
No. The other
Tavion Heights?
Tavon Heights, yes.
Cool.
I'd like to see him. He had a great run in Noah, and he did stuff at Bloodsport. I think that he's someone I'd like to see do some stuff with maybe some luchadors. Again, he's spread his wings so far. Again, NXT, Japan. I'd like to see him work with some luchadors. I think he's someone who's got a bright future as well.
You know, I think I would pick for Worlds Collide. The man that was so close to be NXT champion, Javon Evans. This is the last match we're talking about here on a Stand Deliver recap because to me, blown away. Trick Williams had a mission to be the NXT champ once more. Obafemi says, but Javon Evans was the wild card. Took both men to the brink. But unfortunately, only one man can walk away with the strap, and it really was Obafemi. But that said, Javon Evans' stock is rising that day.
Yeah, Javon Evans is going to be such a big star. I've said before, I compare him to a Jeff Hardy in the sense that I think he's just got a organic connection with the audience. I think that he's obviously high flying, but I think he's bigger than Jeff Hardy. I could be wrong. I don't know how big he is compared to Jeff Hardy, but I think he's bigger than Jeff Hardy. Yeah. Like I said, the organic connection with the audience, and he's, again, I think he's not even old enough to rent a car. So
no, he's still 20 years old. Yeah.
I was gonna make a joke, but that's just the truth. He can't even rent a car. He's so young. Like I said, it's crazy. If I said he could, 5 years to win a world championship, that seems very doable to me. And he'd only be 25 years old when that happens. I don't know what the record is for youngest, but Troy J says, pretty sure he's still growing. Yeah, probably is.
I think my benchmark is Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate was signed at 19 in the inaugural WWE United Kingdom Championship tournament. I think he's the benchmark for young talent. Thea Hale was 18 when she was signed, etc.
Yeah, if I said so, Randy Orton is the youngest world champion of all time at age 24. If I said Javon Evans spent another year in NXT and then 2 years on the main roster before becoming a world champion, that'd still put him at younger than Randy Orton. I'm not saying he's going to. I'm just saying when you think about the kind of career he could have, like it could get pretty wild with what he could accomplish.
He's the future. And I say that as someone who's a character guy. We're talking about characters before on our private chain. I can't describe what Javon Evans is, but I can totally see kids being like, oh, he talks like me, he walks like me, he has hairstyles like me, his costumes, his ring gear looks like me. I'm all about Javon Evans, much like how when I was a kid, I was all about Tatanka because he wore different gear and he looked a certain way and he just stood out as opposed to being like, is Tatanka an accountant? Is Tatanka a businessman? We don't know.
I thought you were going to say Tatanka, he dressed like me.
He dressed like me, straight from the hood. You know,
what?
Yeah, with those leather claws, right? Or above the nards. Yeah.
Javon Evans has the potential to have an absolutely insane career. It's a long way to go from here to there, but just the talent level he's at the age he's at is truly ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Totally my favorite match of the weekend. Obafemi, some people are saying are getting kind of stale. I disagree. I think all men have really showed it. And I love the fact that Trick is now at the crash out stage and got called out for it by the man who showed up this week as well on NXT, Joe Hendry. You know what, man? This Joe Hendry guy, if you haven't got his WrestleMania merch, please do it because he's got everywhere.
Speaking of WrestleMania merch, you see someone showed a picture they were selling finally the Rock has come back to Las Vegas shirts.
Yeah.
That is you should get your money back on that one. That's
Hey, Jack Farmer said he never said he was coming, so really it was on you. It was.
Hey, it's not the first time everyone thought he was going to be at a pay-per-view and he didn't show up.
You're right. It was what, Survivor Series 22, 23? 20.
Yeah, they're like, we're celebrating The Rock.
Yeah, he's not coming. This is the worst pay-per-view ever. It's like we never said. Okay, it's PLE now, by the way.
Yeah, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Wait, no.
All right, President Bush. Don't get shamed again. Anyway, the triple threat was my match of the weekend. It was my favorite one. I was on the edge of my seat, which is kind of hard to do these days in my old age. Hopefully, we get more of that on the NXT brand. I'm going to call it silver and black. That's what it is now. But also, Fountain Blue showing almost everything for WWE this weekend. That was NXT was there, the Hall of Fame was there, the rest of WrestleMania was there, and the After Dark show. So shout out to them for really being the hub, even though it was on the other side of town. to see everything.
It's walkable.
I mean, it is for me because I love walking 20,000 steps in Las Vegas, but I feel terrible having someone with me doing that. So, yeah. Anyway,
nothing like 5-mile walk in the desert.
Yeah, okay, but there's like water stands and beer.
Desert.
There's breweries. It's not like you're walking in sand dunes.
Why you have people shoving pictures of half-naked dancers in your face?
That's actually a positive. I don't know why that's a positive. That's why I go. why do it here in LA? We can go get some half-naked ladies here.
You're like, I'm not going to go to this.
Yeah, my collection is huge. Before we wind this down, we got to talk about AEW because now it's officially in the post-Length of Nitro era. They have a slew of events coming on the next couple of weeks, and we're talking about the Grand Slam Mexico. We're talking about all Double or Nothing. We're talking about All in Texas. It could be a hot time for the number 2 brand in the country. Jack, you're an AEW guy. You say I'm a hater. How you feel about AEW's prognosis into the summer?
I think that it's healthy right now. I think they're doing good stuff. Something that really caught my attention watching Dynamite tonight is it really showcased to me how different the pacing is. And we talked earlier on in the show about how sometimes, like, if you watch the WWE show right now, it'll take you about 10 minutes before you get into anything of substance on the show. Because it'll, of course, do the drone shot of the city, and then it will do the wrestlers showing up. Superstar arrivals, and then maybe we'll go to commentary talking. It takes about 10 minutes to get the show started. And then a lot of times a entrance music will hit, the person will walk out, then it goes to commercial break, and then it comes back. And a lot of times it can take a long time before things get started. And in between a lot of stuff, it can take a long time because they'll do commercial breaks or different things to sort of drag out chunks of the show. Where AEW, especially tonight, it starts and it's just like, bam, Masterpiece coming out. And the crowd,
bam, Masterpiece coming.
Bam. Nah.
Oh.
But it's like, oh, Masterpiece here. And I don't think Masterpiece is the biggest star in the world, but the crowd loved him. The crowd was very excited about him. And then, like, immediately you've got the Ops coming out, and then you've got the Death Riders coming out, and you've got Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. I was thinking, if I was just watching this for the first time after watching a lot of WWE, if I was someone who was upset with WrestleMania, I was like, I'm going to check out AEW. This to me was a hot start. I'm seeing all these different characters. A lot of them I know, whether it be a Samoa Joe or, oh, hey, there's John Moxley, or I've heard about this Kenny Omega guy. And it goes from that right into Christian Cage, who, again, I know, great promo. Clearly, he's the bad guy. I hate this dude. Then, bam, Ricochet's coming out. Hey, I know Ricochet. That's cool. But who's this Mark Briscoe guy? He's insane looking. They have a great matchup. And I was just thinking this whole thing, it's just like boom, 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 boom. And I know if you talk to some people, they'll say AEW needs to breathe a little bit more. I'm not saying it's perfect. I feel like maybe sometimes both sides need to come in to the middle a little bit. I think WWE needs to.
In this country? Never. You pick a side or rise at the end, baby.
Yeah, and you go further and further away from the middle.
They're wrong. I'm right.
But like, I'm watching this. I'm like, if I'm someone who has a lot of gripes about the way WWE is right now, if I am one of the people who got put off a little bit, to me, I felt like this was a really great episode to showcase what makes AEW different. The fast-paced stuff happening. There wasn't a lot of filler. The matches were fun. And you had the Young Bucks versus Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey, which again, you don't see characters like a Mike Bailey anywhere else. Mike Bailey is absolutely a unique individual. It was a fast-paced matchup. It was just the whole time. It was you're laughing. I thought this show seemed incredible to me.
I'm laughing because I know that if Mike Bailey was a wrestler during the WCW times, standard in practices would ban the word speedball so fast. Like we can't say that on air. No, but I'm with you 100%. Because like, look,
to be fair, WCW did have general erection.
They did do that, yeah. And I feel Glacier didn't come out the snow, if you know what I'm saying. I'm just putting it out there. No, it's funny you mentioned that because I hadn't really thought about that till you tweeted it or threaded it or blue skied it. I don't remember. I read it somewhere, and I'm with you because like even though I love presentation from WWE, I kind of lament the fact there isn't a theme intro package every week to hype me up, right? And even though I know if I am in Des Moines, it would be cool to see the Chamber of Commerce showing up in a drone shot. I don't really care. like get me into the arena as quick as possible.
Chamber of Commerce.
You know, because people are paying all these events for things. So it's like, oh, we're here live in Worcester, Massachusetts. But if I'm at home in LA, I'm like, yeah. Get it on with it. But the question is, I have to ask though, if you're AEW and you're watching or listening to Draped in Gold and giving us 5 stars because you're amazing, how's that? Is there a way to weaponize that? Is there a way to market that and say, hey, look, no BS, straight wrestling graphs? You think?
Well, I thought it was very smart in Vegas. For anyone who's there, you saw there was a lot of AEW advertising throughout Vegas for a company that's not doing any shows there that I can think of anytime soon. But very smart. I think that was very clever of them to do that. The truth is, it's a long game, and I know a lot of people want to have these like, oh, do this, and then that'll spike ratings or change things. Changing viewing habits is a very long and slow process. You're not going to get 2 million people to suddenly change the channel overnight in a situation like this. So I think you just have to be consistent. I think you got to look at a long. I think they do need to make sure they're focusing on long game and focusing on what does All In this year look like. What does All In next year look like?
Right. In Wembley.
And I think you got to start making sure you're getting those seeds planted. And as much as I talked earlier about the matches mattering too, I think you do got to start building those characters and building those stories and making sure that when things happen, it's not just, oh, this would be a good wrestling match, but it feels like there's stakes. It feels like something's on the line. I think WWE did such a good job with Paul Heyman being a manager and making it feel like it matters that he changed sides instead of just, I look at as a comparison, Josh Alexander is one of the biggest free agent signings in a long time, just going, oh, I guess I'm with Don Callis. It didn't feel like something that could have been something that drug out or played out. That could have been a big story. I think they need to start leaning into that a little bit more. Like I said, I don't want to just say one is better than the other. I think that AEW should stay fast paced, but I do think they can do some building. I think WWE could also cut out a little bit of the filler.
Yeah. And I wonder, I know, like, look, you don't want to become your competition, right? That's ideal. You don't want to do Pepsi is different than Coke because of what it is. They're not going to try to be the same, but AEW's yeah, it is. AEW is so close, though. Like, as much as people have lamented the tribalism in wrestling, the more places that have hot wrestling, it makes it better for everyone. Like, it felt so great to walk around Vegas, and if you wanted to, you could talk to random wrestling fans because they were walking around. If you wanted to be embarrassed, you could because they were still walking around. I mean, I would love the days of having a strong AEW and a strong WWE, but it does feel like it's like one flavor or the other. I kind of wish it was a bridge. You know what I mean?
I think AEW is in a tough spot because WWE has been killing it for the past few years. Like, they're hot. It's not like, both brands are weak. I think that's where it was when AEW started, was in one of the worst runs of WWE history, that 2019, 2018 period.
Yeah. Dog food and Roman Reigns, the Hell in a Cell, no contest. Ugh.
Which, what does that tell you when I say one of the worst times was the time before the empty arena? So then WWE got hot. And when they're hot, you're not going to take something away you're not going to take viewers away. You're not going to take people. It's just, you know, if there's a girl you like and she's got a boyfriend and he's knocking out of the park, you ain't stealing her away. It ain't gonna happen. You gotta wait till he becomes a little bit of a jerk, till he misses her birthday or something.
Whoa,
And
knocking out of park, sir. I know we're late, but this is a family show.
you know, what you do is you wait until he forgets the birthday, or
Oh yeah.
you wait until he he didn't get along at the family dinner or something, and
Oh yeah.
then you wait, then you bring out the old guitar and you strum it and you say, "I would never do that to you if you were my girl."
Whoa!
And you
He
strum
is the
guitar.
home wrecker, Jack Farmer.
But the point is, I do think, because there's a lot of people who are complaining about WrestleMania, right or wrong. We all can agree or disagree or whatever. I do think there is that little bit of opportunity. I think if you come in and say, this is how we're different, this is what we do, this is, we have the fast-paced shows, we don't promise The Rock or whatever.
Right.
That is a little bit of an opening. Again, I'm not saying 2 million people are going to jump ship tomorrow. But this is maybe that start where you start to slowly build that. And you have to, again, think long-term. It's not going to happen overnight.
Gerald J says, and your hopes, get your hopes up that she'll leave him, but she won't. She never does. He understands me. He's like, I never had that problem. I'm Jack Farmer. Tacoma Street Champ. That said, this is a crazy time for wrestling. TNA Rebellion is this weekend here in Los Angeles. If this was a non-WrestleMania week, we probably would have done a recap for that, but I'll definitely have my news and notes because I'm going to be there this weekend. Jack, where are you going to be over the next 7 days, man? Because we're Wednesday nights. We're after AEW, 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. What are you doing between now and then?
I might end up going to Rebellion myself to check out TNA. I was just chatting with our old pal George from Moza about it. I'll probably make that decision Sunday morning. But but I will be joining the United Wrestling Network Championship Wrestling taping on April 29th. That's Tuesday. If you're in Southern California, it's at the Irvine Improv in Orange County. Come check it out, or just watch the shows when they're on. Check your local listings. Also be doing commentary and ring announcing for Santino Bros on May 1st. We got another show in Azusa. Be there live or check it out on Triller.
Yeah, and we'll be back here next week because Draped in Gold, we're just decided to do the show for wrestling fans because we are a bunch of nerds. Please share the podcast, tell a friend about it, give us 5 stars on your favorite podcasting service of choice. We do read the comments because we have incredibly fragile egos. But in the meantime, man, if I want to contact you or even book you for something, I need to know, how do I go about doing that?
Yeah, you can follow me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. And that's where you can also find links to our show that you can like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star review. We're doing the show at night for you. We heard people say that they wanted us to do it at night so they could be here live. That's what we're doing. So please join us live and share it with all of your friends. That's how we build the show. But again, also you can check out the Championship Wrestling, Santino Bros, and everything else.
Man, the times we had shows at 10 o'clock in the morning, it was great. I got up, got some coffee. I don't know. It was nice. It felt cozy. I just put it out there. But yeah, I am not booked like Jack because I'm kind of washed. But like I said before at the top of the show, justsandwich.com. That's my blog. And of course, you can follow me on that blue sky at Flobo Boyce and at X at Flobo Boyce. Just say what's up. Let us know what you think about the show. Back here next Wednesday to talk about more wrestling arts and sciences, plus NXT and TNA, some of the fallout if Jack decides to go day of. But until that time, my friend, do me a favor and please say the words.
Do your best and be yourself.